How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews back with new brewery time. Yeah, courtesy of my boy Mike. This be Glenbrook Brewing. It's their Morristown IPA. New brewery, open in Morristown. He lives in Morristown, so he wanted to drop a crowler off to me. Thank you very much, brother. It says on the front here, join the revolution, revolutionary beer. Glenbrook Brewery is located in the heart of Morris County. The county is rich in American Revolutionary War history and was a winter encampment for George General Washington in the Continental Army. So it goes into history of the area and all that kind of fun stuff. Let's see here. 3/5 is the date on this crowler. What do we got here? What's the time? 3/7. So 2 days old in the crowler, not too shabby. And he actually gave me a little note with it. It says here, hey, this brewery is the first brewery in Morristown. They opened last week and are offering IPA made from local ingredients as well as ale, porter, and shandy. Great people, great brewery. And he kind of told me about that. He's like, from everything from the grain to the hops, the whole nine are locally grown, which is kind of impressive, especially when you talk about the hop game. You have a new brewery open. IPAs are typically where you're going to hang your hat. You don't get those super exotic hops to really function in this area. A lot of old school hops, a lot of sea hops, stuff like that. Plus a lot of boutique hops now are kind of they're trademarked. You can't really grow them. So we'll see what's what. Now, first things first. IPA. Clear IPA. I'm kind of pumped about that. I dig it. I can get on the clear IPA. But you see the whole like revolutionary thing. You think about innovative, but this looks like going back to the old school, which I do not mind. Two finger index fingers of big head on it. That's because of a crowler pour. It's really hard to get a decent pour off of these. Pretty beautiful white head on it, just south of khaki, and it just has that rich golden glow to it that you come to expect from very old school IPA. Crystal clear. This is not the hazy stuff, so we're dealing with, old school vibes all around in this, which makes sense, because like I said, you're not going to get any of those exotic boutique hops locally grown, so let's see what the nose has. I mean, it does have a nice fruit characteristic to it. It definitely leans, a citrus with a little dollop of kind of peachiness to it. It does have a little bit of juicy characteristics to it. It's not a juicy beer. Do you know what I mean? That's not what I'm saying. But the hops do have that kind of fruity aromatics. I'm not getting much as far as bittering on it, but it smells like this really chuggable. 6.3% comes off a little bit lower as far as the nose comes off impact-wise than that, but it comes off as a super clean, super chuggable, like crusher, old school IPA without a huge bittering component to it. So yeah, let's just dive in. Cheers. And that's exactly what it is, except there is a big, decent pop of bittering in there. This is West Coast IPA through and through. I mean, that's what it is. I'm really surprised that resinous pininess didn't really jump out in the nose, but it's definitely there in the taste. I mean, it is epically crisp of a beer. As far as mouthfeel, as far as malt base, it is just screaming of those old school West Coast IPAs because it is this nice, rich carrot crystal malt kind of combo thing going on. Nothing too heavy, maybe a dash of Maris Otter for some color or something like that. But a nice, crisp, well done maltiness that has this sturdiness to it, but at the same time isn't overly sweet. It's attenuated almost completely. There's a bit of sweetness in there, but not even close to what you get from a lot of these new school kind of IPAs. Those hops kind of come in. You definitely get those citrus components mostly on the nose, and they come off quite nice. That kind of the peachy thing I talked about in the nose, not really getting a ton of that in the taste. That could be with that kind of resinous characteristic kind of building up actually in the actual beer itself. But in the nose, I got a little bit of peachiness and heavily citrus. In the taste, it's heavily citrus, heavily leaning grapefruit, and this resinous kind of just piney, more resinous than piney kind of bitterness to it. And then finishes crisp and clear. It is really, really well made. I mean, granted, it's hyper fresh. That goes a lot into the play of it. But I mean, come on, look at it. You can just see how that beer looks. See the lacing on the glass. How it drinks is super clean, super well made. So from that aspect, it's absolutely fantastic. Kind of revolutionary. There's a lot of poopy beer out there that gets masked and hidden by a bunch of haze and a bunch of adjunct. I like it. I really do. Old school and sensibility, but it's so old school, it's a little bit of new school. Because not a lot of people do these kind of crisp, clean, West Coast leaning IPAs, and I dig it. I really, really do. I'm impressed about how well it's made. That's probably the thing about it. When we get to the point of the show where I kind of talk about this is one of the better IPAs I've had as late, I'm going to say yes. It's not going to be a Mount Rushmore status for me, but as far as one of the more cleaner, crisper, well-made IPAs, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue against this beer being up towards the top, because that's what it is. It's infinitely well-made. This reminds me of old school, freaking Sierra Nevada, Bell's, fucking, those kind of beers, Russian River. That, I'm not joking, that's the level of cleanliness and crispiness and that West Coastiness that it's giving me in here, that if you were to pull this label off and give me one of those old school West Coast breweries and throw that on there, I wouldn't be like, no, this is not what they do. And I think that's probably the highest compliment I can give a beer like this. And in the grand scheme of things, it's going to be, is it going to be everybody's cup of tea? No. Even when he said on the note here, they had an ale, a porter, and a shandy on top of this. Ale, what kind of ale? I don't know. Those are very old school beers from old school brewers. I would guess who opened a brewery comes from a home brewing background, and that's not a knock, and by any stretch of imagination, but you tend to be a little bit more kind of BJCP kind of focused, hyper focused when you come from that background, and that's where this beer kind of really does show up. Because while viscerally it might not be my favorite IPA, because I can dig on the old school, I definitely dig on the new school, I dig on everything in between. It's so by the book. That's impressive, but at the same time, it's so by the book, and I like a little bit of personality in the beer. So if I'm going to knock this beer for anything, I just want a little hook to it. Now, you could sit here and argue that the hook is it's all locally grown ingredients. I applaud that. But I always like a little personality in the beer, something to be like, okay, that's from that brewery. And again, this is me not knocking. This is me kind of riffing on breweries and what I dig about them. Is that I can find this beer, and that's not. Again, I'm not saying this as a knock or slight. I can find this beer, but I can find this beer from a lot of breweries, because a lot of breweries start off this way and they really hang their hat on this style, especially the ones that kind of opened up, 15, 20 years ago or older. And I'm excited to visit the brewery once all the COVID stuff is down. I'm excited to try a bunch of their other beers, but I hope they kind of, keep rolling and keep expanding, kind of doing different stuff, because if you can make beer this well made, there's no reason why you can't make some kooky stuff here and there for funskies from now and then. Anyway, is it one of the better IPAs I've had as late? Yes. Is it Mount Rushmore status? No, but it's absolutely, definitely tasty stuff. Value and availability, brewery only, I would assume, and leave you with, if you like what we like this beer, if you like epically old school West Coast IPA, you drink this, you're a happy camper. That's pretty much it. I mean, if you like the old school IPA and how it reigned supreme and that resinous kind of West Coast characteristic, there you go. It's there. Check it out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Thank you very much again, Mike, for dropping this off to me. Down there, if you want to talk about it, Massive Beers. If you want to check me out doing the social media stuff, Beer Massif. If you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing, hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're doing a little bit of a Glenbrook right now. We'll see you next time. Cheers.